What up? What up? Welcome to another episode of Debate with Bait, brought to you by Mo Serious Entertainment in the heart of Mo City, Texas. That is Missouri City, Texas, the Show Me City. I am your host with the most, Mr. Charles Baker, aka C Bake, the Debate with Bake host, and that's my co-host, Gerard Cole, aka Mr. Rude Boy, aka Mr. New York City, aka Mr. New York Nick, aka Mr. New York Jet, aka Mr. NYC. What's going on, Mr. Cole?
Chilling. You left one off, man. AKA Knicks bust y'all down, man. Dag, Houston. Yo, good looks on that win, man. Giving us some good playoffs to stand in. You know how we is.
You know what, man? I'm not going to even be a hater, even though, you really excited about beating the last place team in the NBA, but it's all good. It's because it's me. I'm representing Houston, and it's you that's representing New York. So I get it. I wouldn't be excited about beating all those years we used to beat y'all with Melo and all that. I never rubbed it in your face, but I get it. We on the podcast now. I get it. It's always a Houston versus New York thing. Before we get started, ladies and gentlemen, before we let Cole go off on his little New York rant, before we get started, make sure you follow Mo Serious Entertainment on Instagram and Facebook. Subscribe to Mo Serious Entertainment on YouTube. All right, Cole, let's get into it, man. Of course, we could talk about the Knicks and Rockets, but really, man, nobody really wants to hear about the Rockets. I don't want to hear about the Rockets. Other than, maybe they get rid of Coach Silas, which I don't know, Cole. You think it's his fault? Just to kind of get off a little bit.
I think that was it. This is third year as a coach or the second year?
Man, it's one of the two. You in the right neighborhood.
I think he deserves 4 years, man. Nowadays, all these cool kids come out of high school, only play a year in college, and they ain't ready to play against grown men. Their body's got to develop, and they're learning how to play. I see Jalen Green coming along offensively. He has to work on his defense. But I just think they just need a couple of veterans. Y'all got the talent. Y'all got some young talent. Eason, you have Porter, you have KJ Martin, which I heard y'all might let go.
There's been rumors about that in the Houston media. I think that's going to eventually happen.
But
all right, let me ask you this. Just based on what you just named now, of course, I'm not going to ask you to pinpoint the veterans that you think will work in this situation, but who are the guys that you would keep, the young guys? Who do you think would be our young nucleus? Help us out in Houston.
God. I think you have to keep Jabari Smith. He's been showing some flashes of a couple of years from now. He's gonna be great. He's versatile. He can play inside, outside. You have to keep Jalen Green because I think it's hard to get bona fide scorers who go in night out and get you a bucket. And I think he's only gonna get better once the game continues to slow down as his body gets stronger. I like Porter. He could be moved maybe for a different style of point guard, only for the reason that
he has value.
Yeah, he has value. And I don't ever see him being humble enough to come off the bench. And maybe I'm wrong. I don't get to watch all the Rockets games, but I would love to see a more veteran present guard next to Jalen Green, and then Porter playing. I would love to see like Porter and Maxey with Embiid. Even bringing Harden back and replacing Porter and sending Porter over to Philly, I think be good for both sides. Because I think Harden will give them that nice mix. And then they just got to pick up a veteran center, like a veteran big man who's just gritty and does all the dirty work and can hold people accountable. So,
all right, well, cool, man. I'm glad you said that. It definitely sounds. I get what you're saying. I know we gotta establish some kind of nucleus out of this young core. I'm just thinking about who we keep. Of course, we got talent. Everybody that plays us says we have talent, but it's just like.
And you get into the lottery.
Yeah, I'm just, how I am, man. For years, I've been telling you this about the Knicks. It's like, I'm not really a person that like to build through the draft simply because it's like, I think with young players, a lot of them don't know what it takes to win. Of course, you go from playing 30-something games in reference to the college game to like now 82 games. And the NBA is just a totally different level. I feel that way about the NBA and NFL. So I'm not really, I get excited about the draft, but when I think about the draft, when I think about the kids we bring in from the draft, I'm like, that's for further down the line. And I guess I'm spoiled because for years, Daryl Morey has always brought us free agents, and we win right now. So I don't know. I just thought I'd ask. I mean, it's hard for me. I hardly talk about the Rockets on this podcast because it's like I went to watch them, and it's hard to watch them, and it's hard to critique them because they are so young. And I feel bad for Silas because I like the guy. I think the guy's an excellent teacher, but for whatever reason, he's not connected
I
with the
think
young guys.
I think two moves can work for y'all this offseason. I think that will turn y'all into automatic contenders. Resign Harden, and then move Porter and one of your young players and bring Jaylen Brown. If you could keep Jalen Green, imagine having Brown, Jalen Green, and Harden or Van Fleet. So because those two are going to be free agents. You bring Van Fleet or Harden, and you could make a trade because Jaylen Brown don't want to be there. You could offer. I would be willing to give up Jabari Smith or give up the number 1 draft pick this year with Porter to get that and make that happen.
Right. All right. Well, I mean, that don't sound bad, man. You know what? Let's get into this topic, man. Speaking of big men, speaking of the NBA, I got to get you on this, and I want to hear. Well, I'm not gonna roast you on it, but I want to hear your response to this. But I got in my notes titled, I told you, Cole, the Nets have ruled out Ben Simmons for the rest of the season. And check this out. He has not played since February the 15th. And the Nets announced, which I'm not buying this, but he's been diagnosed with a nerve impingement in his back. But just think about this for a second, because I want to revert back to, I don't remember what episode it was, but I told you I had a lot of reservations about this guy because, again, for me, he quit in Philadelphia. And still to this day, nobody can tell me what made him quit, why he quit. I mean, you gave me an answer. I wasn't buying it. A lot of people give me an answer. I just want to know what's the source of him quitting, but that's a whole nother subject. But check this out. His numbers at Philadelphia, and somebody's going to do a 30 for 30 or behind the scenes on this because it's kind of like what happened to Ben Simmons. But check this out. For the 76ers, he was averaging 15.9 points a game. To now in Brooklyn, he's averaging 6.9. His field goal percentage, well, his rebounds per game, he had 8. Now he's down. He had 8.1 with the 76ers. Now he's down to 6.3. Assists is down from 7.7 with the Sixers to 6.1 with the Nets, which is not too bad. But he's clearly, to me, I'm not buying that he has a nerve impingement in his back. I think the Nets are just shutting him down just because he's not producing. And in my opinion, he now becomes probably one of the most expensive players in the league simply because of his contract details, and we'll get into that in a minute. But also his contract in reference to his production as a player. And so check this out. He signed a 5-year deal, and I don't know if this is correct, but I got 177. That can't be correct. You check it on you.
He was a supermax. I think he was eligible for the supermax. So
yeah. I mean, is that correct? Am I correct? Am I looking at this right? 177 mil over 5 years, including he's got a huge guarantee. I don't even want to read that, but he's got an annual salary of $35,448,000. 2 years remaining after this season. He's due another $37 million next year and 40 million in 2024-2025 basketball season. Now, again, my question to you is this. I want to put you as the Nets GM. What do you do? Because you're locked into this guy. And I told you before I would never lock into this guy, and the numbers are showing it. His production is showing it. But I want to put you in the hot seat a little bit. What do you do? Because it's like the numbers I just read to you, the salary that he's guaranteed, the annual salary that he's getting, and his production is pretty much almost literally zero in comparison to who he was in Philadelphia. What do you do? as a Nets GM? Like, what? He's got 2 years remaining, I believe. Like, is he not the most expensive player based on his money to lack of production? Like, how do you navigate through this if you're the Nets? This is why I said, to me, I would never have taken this guy, and it was you and a number of other people telling me basically what he could be, the tools that he brings, his ability to. I remember you saying his ability to, he's a defensive. He was on the all defensive team, and you get that, his rebounding. He can play multiple positions, but I'm asking you and everybody who tried to sell me on this guy, what do you do with him now?
I think so. I agree with you. Like it's looks like a bad move now.
I told you it was
It
a
is a
bad
bad
move a
move.
long time. I
You
told you
did
that a
tell me.
long time ago.
You did.
I did tell you that.
You did. However, I also think what compounds this is that they got rid of the pieces that I felt like he was a good fit for.
This guy's
Think
gonna
about
stick
it.
with
Think
it.
about it. You had two premier NBA scorers, and then you had a whole bunch of shooters, and I'm only going off his career with the Sixers. If you see his career with the Sixers, he averaged 16 points a game, 8 rebounds, 7 assists. Everyone knows he was all NBA, making all-star teams and everything when he was with the Sixers. I felt like, from my opinion, that I thought maybe his bad play was attributed to how his mental health and also his physical well-being towards the end of his time with the Sixers. I thought he would end up bouncing back. I thought that playing with Kyrie Irving, I thought that playing with Durant, I thought that playing with Joe Harris, playing with Curry, I thought that would make his life easier because there's a whole bunch of shooters and all he had to do was facilitate and do what he did with Philly, but with better players. He's disappointed me. I can't make an excuse for the dude. I think the only thing that New Jersey Nets can do now is try to hide him as much as possible and eventually maybe sucker someone into making a trade or taking on a bad contract or two to get rid of him eventually. That's the only thing you could do. I'm not going to sit here and try to protect this dude because at the end of the day, he fell off the face of the earth. He's one of those players that used to be a star, and then all of a sudden you're like, dang, what happened to him?
So let me get this straight. Okay. Because I think you are saying exactly. I think you are. I didn't remember this part, but I want to ask you this. I think you did say that. I think you said because he'll be surrounded by Kevin Durant.
Yeah, and shooters and scorers.
I think I do remember you saying that now.
He didn't have
it's like, and so let me back up then. So what I'm hearing is, are you, I don't want to say make an excuse, but are you saying now that they're gone, of course, that attributes to him playing as poorly as he's playing now because those two are gone?
I think he was already playing poorly, but I think it adds to it because now he's not protected by all the other players around him that can cover some of his inefficiencies on the court.
Okay, so let me ask you this. All right. Let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
Hypothetically speaking, because I want to go off what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
So if the Phoenix Suns, if he was to become available for the Phoenix Suns, you got Durant over there, you got Chris Paul, you got Devin Booker, you got Andre Ayton, the team that you like. I'm still not convinced, but let's just play. I want to go off your theory because you just said it. If you put more players around him, so do you think if he goes to Phoenix, he can be the player that you thought he was going to be in Brooklyn?
I don't ever think after seeing what he does that he'll be the player that he thought he could be. I still think his career is salvageable. I think it's mental for him. Like his mental mix. If his back isn't horrible, it's mental for him.
But see, that's the point I've been trying to get you to understand about him. That's the point I've been trying to get you to understand about Durant. That is what I've been trying to get you and everybody else who's optimistic about Ben Simmons is this. I even say Durant, but Durant hasn't tanked like him. But I'll leave Durant out of this because everybody knows, and I'm gonna get killed on here for criticizing Durant, but that's for another subject. In fact, we'll talk about Durant later. But that's what I've been getting you to see. That's what I've been trying to get you to understand. He quit. Again, he quit in Philadelphia. It was no, we could say mental health. We could say he had physical situations or physical injuries, physical difficulties, whatever you want to say. But that's my point. When a guy quits, that's what I'm trying to get you to understand. The guy has all the talent in the world. I mean, I think at one time people were calling him the next LeBron or similar to LeBron, skill set and all that. But I told you, man, when he quit in Philadelphia, he flat out quit. He quit, and
you want to know who his career ended up being like? I feel like if you want to make a comparison, and I'll go to your favorite sport, I would say that he started off on top. He was one of the best players, and he ends up being Antonio Tarver or Rinku Wright. Those two dudes were amazing, and then eventually,
not even that. It's worse than that. It's worse than that. It's not even that. I can't even compare him in boxing. Like, I'm trying to think, who would I compare him to? Because even with Antonio Tarver, even with Winky Wright, they had devastating losses, but both men, to a certain extent, were able to bounce back. Now, were they able to bounce back? I could see the similarity you're trying to draw in terms of they probably didn't bounce back to the level that they were, the high level. So I'll give you that in a sense. But at the end of the day, neither man, and I'm talking neither man, whether it be Winky Wright or Antonio Tarver, neither one of them completely just changed as a boxer. Yeah, they didn't go back to the level they were on, but they still had notable wins after losses, and they still were respectable fighters when they decided to hang up the gloves. Ben Simmons is on the verge for me. Ben Simmons is on the verge of being one of the worst busts of any sport, period. And what I mean by that is, outside of a drug habit, outside of a habit off the court, have we ever seen anybody with such an epic, and I'm calling it epic, some people are going to say, well, you're going too far, but an epic drop-off where, and I'm calling it epic drop-off, not just because he went from 15 points to 6 points, but again, there is nothing that we can pinpoint. There's nothing that everybody can agree upon with Ben Simmons that points to him, to his destruction of the way he's playing right now. Like there was no fallout with a coach. There was no, he had issues off the court. There was no, like, I'll give my man, what's my man that played for the Magic that the Rockets ended up, he was never the same after he missed those 4 free throws, Nick Anderson.
Yeah.
We can point to that moment and say that moment changed his career. You know what I'm saying? Him missing those 4 free throws. He went to the line, and the Magic could have won that game, game one. Shout out to the 94-95 Houston Rockets. Was at the 95-96 Houston Rockets. That was the second championship. But I do remember we smacked New York before that, but that's for a whole nother subject. But we can point to an event in Nick Anderson's career and say that was what derailed his career. And it's understandable why he was never the same player. He put a lot of pressure on himself, and a lot of people say they could have won that game. But nobody, including yourself and everybody who was optimistic about Ben Simmons, can point to a specific event, to something that kind of shows us why he's in the position that he is now. Now, it probably was something off the court. I don't know. But again, I told you from the beginning that this was going to happen because he quit. Anytime a guy quits, I don't care how much talent he has, he's not going to pan out. He's not going to pan out. And, I mean, good luck to you if you're the Nets GM. I don't know what you do.
I think at the end of the day, like I said, it has to be a bad contract for a bet. You got to you can swing for the fences and say, hey, he's from Chicago. You want to take Lonzo Ball's contract because they probably don't want to be on Lonzo Ball's contract, and maybe you could do something like that. But at the end of the day, I think you just eat it. You eat the contract, man, into the final season, and then there'll be somebody who'll want that last $40 million to come off their cap. So you trade some players. So
all right, let me ask you this, and then we'll move off this. I want to ask you this, because if this did happen, okay, Is it worth you going back to Philadelphia? And I'm saying you the GM. And what I mean by going back to Philadelphia, do you try to get him back to the mindset he was when he was at Philadelphia, when he was a multiple time all-star, all NBA defense? Do you try to go back to that? Do you try to make him feel comfortable like that? Do you try to get him back to that space to where he was playing his best basketball? How do you psychologically revive a guy like that? Like,
I think
how do you do it?
I think in the NBA these days is cutthroat. So I think it all depends on what the Nets want to do. Are they going young and they want to prioritize Cam Johnson, Finney Smith, Mikal Bridges, and all those other players that they just brought over because they all play the same position as him. So like, what direction do you want to go? Do you let him play to showcase him to other teams to say, okay, maybe he has improved? You're kind of stuck with a rock and a hard place with him. Or you could cut your losses and just cut him and just say, hey, hell with it. We'll eat his salary, but it's just go somewhere else. Get out of here. It's hard. At the end of the day, they could just bench him. It wouldn't even hurt them. But I think their best bet is to take the first part of the season, maybe the first 20 games, and showcase him, and hopefully he does well. Because in the NBA is one of those places where teams are always willing to take a reclamation project and see if they can change him. And I think he could be a good fit for a lot of teams. I think if Golden State get rid of Draymond Green, I think he could come in and play a similar role as Draymond Green as far as a facilitator of the offense, rebound, defense. He's not Draymond because we already know how I feel about Draymond. He's the reason why they go as far as they go. But I still think that he could play a similar type role, so.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, you and all your supporters gonna have to eat that. I told y'all Ben Simmons wasn't gonna be nothing, but you said on this podcast.
I agree with you. Like I'm not.
You said on this podcast, and you and a number of other people told me he was fixable, he was salvageable, and if we could put him in a different situation, such as the Nets. And now everything that you said about what he needed, gone. And now you stuck with him. Brooklyn is stuck with him. So, right, I mean, one thing we can agree upon is they're going to have to eat this one.
Yeah, they will.
Yeah. Sacramento used to be the butt of my jokes. I'm like, send them out to Sacramento, but not anymore.
Yeah.
Like Mike Brown for coach of the year.
Yeah, I agree.
You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I don't know, man. It's up to you. I mean, but all y'all going to have to eat. All y'all going to have to eat that. I told y'all about Ben Simmons. Hold on, Cole. I got a call right here, man. I want to ask this guy. He's a Ben Simmons guy. Hey, Fee, what's up? We live, man. Let me ask you a question. Now, I got Cole. I just pretty much got Cole to admit that he was wrong about this topic. But I'm pretty sure you agree with me. The Nets have ruled out Ben Simmons for the rest of the season. And, they're using the excuse that he was diagnosed with a nerve impingement in his back. But I told Cole, just like everybody else that was supporting Ben Simmons, that he quit in Philadelphia. And when you quit in Philadelphia, that's a part of your character. And when it's a part of your character, and so now he went from 15 points, well, Cole says 16, it's 15.9, but 16 points a game to now 6.9. Now you stuck with him. And everybody, like, along with Cole and everybody that agreed with, Cole sat on this same podcast, we live feed, and told me that if you surround him with Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and players that make the game easy for him, Cole's excuse was he doesn't have to do as much as he did in Philadelphia, he'll be fine. And so now here we are. He's set to make $37 million this year, $40 million next year. You stuck with him. He becomes the most expensive player in the NBA now because of his production. Now, how do you feel about Ben Simmons?
You said it best when you said he quit. What can you expect from a quitter?
Thank you.
What can you expect if somebody quit? You expect them to quit. Especially when it get hard. He ain't got nobody to pass to the game. Like you said, it ain't easy no more. He got to actually go out there and produce. Man, I'd rather sit down and quit. I'm a quitter. I'm not really a hooper. I wasn't built for this. I'm just tall and just a little bit more athletic than everybody. Ooh, when the going gets tough, I quit.
I quit, right?
Injury.
Make up an injury, right?
Pinch in my back. Just make up something, man. People know I quit. They gonna say I'm gonna quit regardless.
Exactly. So you agree with me, right? In the sense that why would you? Didn't the Nets made a terrible mistake by building a franchise around this dude, right?
Twitter, yeah.
Okay. Well, that's what I wanted to know, man. But look, we're gonna get back. We got some other topics. Cole, and along with the Ben Simmons supporters right now, everybody is on mute. So I'm glad you called in. We're gonna get back to you. We might call you back. You know, this is a part of us getting our audience involved, but I appreciate you calling. Let me call you back because I got to get back to the show because Cole is being very quiet right now. And I'm just wondering if the audience is, you know, if they're still engaged because, you know, my co-host has nothing to say right now. But I appreciate you calling in. Shout out to you, Feet. We're going to get back to the show, all right? Yep.
You can't defend.
Anyway.
I can't defend him when he's playing like that. I'll be crazy. I'll be a crazy man.
I know you was crazy. You should agree with me from the beginning, but we'll say, hey, I won that debate. All right, let's move on. All right, here we go. I got a question for you. And again, I want you to put your NBA GM hat on. DeMarcus Cousins, in a recent article, said he would love to get a real answer as to why he isn't playing in the NBA at the moment. And my question to you is, why isn't DeMarcus Cousins playing with anybody? You as an NBA GM, why would you not consider DeMarcus Cousins? And I like this topic because I actually feel like DeMarcus Cousins could play in this NBA. No, why do you think he's not playing?
I definitely think DeMarcus Cousins could play in this NBA. There should have been tons of teams that should have signed him. But I think it's one of those leagues where it's like, once you get an image, it's hard to shake.
But what is his image?
His image, everyone feels like he's like a hothead. I feel like that was like, to me, the image that everyone would get from him. He's a hothead, very emotional. Because, you know, early in his career, he was always very emotional, getting teed up, always. And I think he had issues with George Karl in the beginning. And I think certain coaches hold a lot of weight in NBA history and can ruin a person's career just by them saying something negative about you. And I think that's what's hindering him from, you know, doing that. And I also think that a lot of coaches just want to go with the youth movement. If you realize, I feel like the NBA is starting to turn to the NFL, where you got 2 to 3 years to show that you can play. Otherwise, you're gone. You're going to end up in the J League, or you're going to end up in Europe. You don't get long in that. You look at someone like Kevin Knox, who's only 21, 22 years old, but he's been in the league for 4 years, but they already gave up on him. He's a journeyman. It's about to be the same thing for my man. I love Cam Reddish, but if Cam Reddish don't show any more glimpses, he's about to be a journeyman or not in the NBA in a second. And I just think that's just a cutthroat league now.
But you think Cousins, I mean, for me, it's a little bit more for Cousins because it's like, I guess what I'm looking at with DeMarcus Cousins is this. I mean, he's a real big man to me. You know, he's a real big man to me. And it's like, you see Embiid versus Jokic. And you see both teams, and I attribute this to both big man's play. Both teams are securely positioned in the playoffs because of the big man play. Now, Jokic just does a little bit more, has a more, I don't want to say refined role, but more responsibilities because of his skill set.
Yeah.
But I just feel like, man, DeMarcus Cousins, you got a guy that can be a stretch four. You got a guy that can post up. You got a guy that can finish around the basket with either hand. Of course, he's not 25 anymore, but I just don't ever remember DeMarcus Cousins playing bad basketball. I remember injuries. I remember a lot of injuries, and that's fair. I could see a team, you know what I'm saying? But I just don't understand why DeMarcus Cousins, if you gave Melo a shot, and I think Melo took advantage of his shot. And Melo might make somebody's playoff roster. But DeMarcus Cousins, I mean, man, I guess you answered the question in the sense of his image, but it's like the problem I have with that statement is this. and I'm not coming at you directly, but the problem I have with that statement is this. I can accept DeMarcus Cousins because of when I look at his career, where he's been. And another thing is, I mean, Cole, he's never really been in trouble off the floor.
He never
Look at a lot of his frustration is from him not winning. I mean, he had a shot down there in New Orleans and he got hurt. And I felt like New Orleans should have kept him and Anthony Davis together. I felt like they could have been something. Now, of course, you know, there probably wouldn't have been no Zion, but I felt like with two big men who played together in college, who were friends, both of them, I mean, if you get them two going at the same time, you know, who could stop them in the inside? You know, and so I'm just like, man, it kind of bothers me that he's not even getting a shot. You know, he's not a guard, he's a big man.
Yeah.
He's a big man that can stretch the defense. He's a big man that can finish with either hand. He's a big man that, to me, what I think the game is missing, another thing that he brings to the table is he's an enforcer.
Yeah.
No, not anybody just gonna walk down a lane without paying a price with him. I think he's an excellent teammate. Everybody said everybody who's played with him is an excellent teammate. I don't know, man. It just bothers me. That's why I put this on the show. It's like, with his skill set, why wouldn't anybody pick him up? Now, let me ask you this. Going into the playoffs, what teams do you think he could help? Just off the top of your head.
I think he'd be a good insurance policy for what's his name? For Embiid. I think that he could play for a team like
give Embiid some minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, he could play for Boston. You know, I think with Williams Robert Williams always going down, I actually think his game would complement and spread the floor a little bit for Tatum and them.
Good one. Boston is a good one.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah.
I think he can come off the bench for a team like the Heat, who are a little bit more slower paced. Mm-hmm. You know, same thing with Toronto. There's a lot of teams he could play for. Hands down, he could play for the Grizzlies, slower pace, you know. He showed it in the finals before he got slightly injured. He was doing this thing with Golden State. You would assume he could get a chance somewhere, you know. So, but right. I think it's going to be one of those things for him where he's going to have to get a contract to get onto a team in the off season, like early in the season. And
do you think he would have to go to Dwight Howard route? Would he even have to go play overseas?
I think that it all depends. I think if he has a connection in the league, he might have to just try to get, like how he did with Denver last year. He got a couple games with Denver. He might just have to take a chance and hopefully someone gets injured. And I hate to say it like that, to wish someone gets injured, but he might just have to take a chance and see how that goes. Or he might have to do like what Giannis does for his little brother, because you know his brother ain't supposed to be in the league, but it's because Giannis is a star. So he might have to find a star like a LeBron or someone, say, LeBron, force him to put me on the team. You know, you my boy. You know,
hey, you talking down on my man right now. I mean, it's the truth what you said. It's the
you
truth.
You could be a Knick, so I'm not trying to hate, but I think that stars control the game.
Right.
If Dame Lillard said, I want to stay in Portland, and for me to stay in Portland, you got to bring Cousins in, Cousins will have a job.
You're right. Because you know what that reminds me of? I never could understand this, and I don't want to sound like a hater, but I have to say this. I mean, back in the 2000s, when Franchise was playing with us, he actually got Moochie Norris on the team.
Yeah.
Because that was his boy from the Baltimore, D.C. area. And I was like, wow, man, I feel like I can go out there and give you what Moochie giving you. But Franchise was the guy. He was the man. It was like the Rockets had to pick him up. He was like, if you want him to play, if you want me to play, you got to pick my man up. So you right.
Yep.
Right. I hate that because DeMarcus Cousins can play to me, but it's like you might be right. It is a superstar league. I mean, yeah, you're right. Giannis' brother, he can't play for anybody else.
Don't let Luka say, hey, I'm leaving Dallas if you don't sign Cousins. They'll sign Cousins in a heartbeat. They'll be like, Cousins, we'll sign your mother too. She could be the trainer in the back. You know what I mean? Like that. Yo, I'm telling you.
I mean, you're right. I hate that the league is like that, but you're right. Like I said, I just thought about Steve Francis, Giannis. Like, you were absolutely right. Oh my God, he's right. Man. All right. That ain't much for debate. You're right about that. All right, let me ask you this. I saw this the other day. This was on an interview. This was on the Pivot. Shout out to the Pivot podcast with Fred and Ryan. But they had Udonis Haslem on there, and Udonis Haslem made. I want to really ask you this because this kind of reminds me of Oakman in New York. But he says Udonis Haslem says on the Pivot podcast, shout out to them, he would have loved to have been an OG to John Morant and offer him, meaning Morant, advice. And this is his quote. This is his quote to John Morant. You can be hood, but you can't be street. There's a difference. That sparked my interest because I never thought about that in terms of John Morant and these younger NBA stars. It's like, and it made me think about your man Oak. And it's like, for a guy like John Morant, these young stars that the Grizzlies has pretty much turned over the franchise to him. And it's like, look at this comment. You can be hood, but you can't be street. There's a difference. Do you think young players like that need guys like Udonis Haslem? And I think Oak would be a good example too, to like these young guys, they're making so much money. And I'm just thinking about John Morant for a second. Young superstar in the city of Memphis. He's probably the brightest thing down there in terms of he makes a lot of money for the organization and for the city. He's probably, you know, at this current time, previous to this situation, was probably the biggest celebrity in Memphis. And we see that, and I don't want to criticize his dad too much, but we see that, you know, his dad is kind of like, you know, he's kind of into the whole, you know, wanting to be seen thing, and, you know, being the loudest one on the side in the stands. I can't tell a guy how to behave. That's his son, you know. But do you think that kind of leadership is needed on this squad with these young kids? Somebody like Udonis Haslem or somebody like Oak? Because think about it like this. How you think Oak would be? Let's just play devil's advocate. Let's say you had a player like John Morant, a young player that played for the Knicks in the 90s with that kind of talent, with Oakman on there, with Mace. Do you think Oakman could have helped John Morant mature like he could have? Like he should have, rather?
I think Oak would have checked them. I think any team with a veteran presence, with the veterans respect, I think someone like Oak would have grabbed them up at the end of the game, or would have said something to him about being late to practice or him not being focused, and he would have checked them real quick. And then his pops would have came in there and got checked too. You know, so
all right. So I'm gonna put you back into the role of an NBA GM. You got a young all-star guard coming into the league, all NCAA, had a great run, young talent. And you decide, you sit in your room of executives with your owner, your assistant GM, your coaches, and you say, hey, we got a chance to draft a John Morant. Do you put that in your plans? That, first of all, y'all are going to get this young John Morant. Do you purposely add into the pot of the Memphis Grizzlies a veteran leader like Oak or Udonis Haslem just for that?
I think as if you draft in any young player, especially John Morant, but I think you always got to have veteran leaders. You got to protect your investment. Like, this is the person you about to spend millions of dollars on. This is the face of your franchise. You definitely have to bring in someone that you feel is a voice that he will respect. Because if you don't, then you're going to have to pay for private security investigators to constantly, you know, monitor his actions and investigate on him, put some parameters for him so that he doesn't, you know, act out in a way that's going to hinder the team, franchise. You know, but I think I would definitely have veterans on the team that is willing to, and just because Udonis Haslem says he would do it doesn't mean that he would actually adhere to Udonis Haslem. I think when you that big of a person, that big of a name, when you blow up so quickly, so big, sometimes I don't even think a voice, you can hear voices sometimes. So
you think that Morant's situation, you don't think veteran leadership would have helped that? You think it had gotten too much out of control? Do you think?
I think veteran leadership could help that. It could always help that. However, I also think the person has to be receptive to it. I think the difference between Udonis and Oakley is that I think Oakley would have actually put his hands on him.
I think Udonis would have too, because Udonis was getting ready to check Jimmy. If you're gonna check Jimmy, you got a lot of respect.
But that's the difference. But that's the difference, though. Oakley would have checked Jimmy. Udonis.
Well, he was trying. I mean, Udonis was trying to. They broke him up. Like, listen.
You would have heard in the news, or you would have heard afterwards.
You got to give Udonis credit. You got to give Udonis credit, because we know that Jimmy, and I know Minnesota is different than Miami, but we know everywhere Jimmy has been, nobody has checked Jimmy. In fact, Jimmy was probably playing the role of Udonis or Oak on the team. I think Udonis is solid, dude. I seen him check Jimmy in front of everybody. And I get it. We know Oak. You know Oak, because Oak was there in New York. You heard the stories of Oak slapping people and all that. But don't rule out my man Udonis, man. I think Udonis, he's not Oak, but he plays the same role as Oak.
Yeah, no, I can see that. I can see that. I think it all comes down to this generation, though, because I think this generation takes discipline different, man.
You're right.
They differ from our generation.
Right, and we're going to get into that in the next topic. So let me ask you this, because you spoke about that earlier with the Rockets. You know, we need some veterans. Do you think somebody like Oak or Udonis could help us in Houston along the same lines?
I think someone like that plays. I think Oakley can help from a standpoint of being in the locker room as an assistant coach. I think he'd be a receptive voice. But I think these players today need someone that's on the court that they could look at and respect. I look at how there was an outburst last week with Randall and IQ, and Randall cursed him out. Looked like he wanted to choke IQ for a quick second, and IQ couldn't even do nothing about it. But I asked myself, would Randall have done that to Lillard? Would he have done that to another player that he could? Nah, he wouldn't have done that. They would have been like, yo, man, go somewhere. And I think management on top of that, if they would have known that there's equal or quality talent or someone there that's forced to respect, they'll jump on the player even more too, because they know they have a fallback. Like right now, if Luka started acting up, they ain't gonna say nothing to Luka, because no one on the team could do what Luka do. Luka, he has to be humble in order for something like that to occur.
Right.
And I think that's when you look at Kyrie. I think part of the issue too, Kyrie probably feels like he's better than everybody. Like just from the outside looking in, he's probably like, what can you tell me? I'm the best point guard. I could do this. I could do that. I'm paid, whatever. Or Kyrie's just his own person. Kyrie's different. He likes to, if you say like the best way to get somewhere is by going down the street and taking a right, Kyrie's probably going to take the left and then go right. You know what I mean? It's just because he wants to be different.
So you're saying it's today's generation. It's today's superstar versus the superstars back in the day.
I think.
Go ahead.
I think today's superstar, there are a lot more influences. You got social media, man. Like you either got social media always under you and that could create a problem, or you got social media always under you and it can make you even more wealth. And so sometimes I think even the way that some people act is their branding. I think part of Ja Morant acting out like that was his branding. He wanted to be branded as maybe a dude that, chills with dudes from the hood, is up with today's culture or whatever like that, like the young people. I think maybe that could have been part of his reason for acting out versus back in the day, there wasn't all this social media. It wasn't all this extra stuff or whatever. So there wasn't.
That's fair. That's a fair assessment. I agree with that to a certain extent. But the counter argument to that is, what about guys like Giannis? What about guys like Jalen Hurts? They're of this generation.
They're from this generation, but I think culturally, I think.
Like, okay, all right.
When you tell me about Jalen Hurts,
that's all I'm about to say. Let's concentrate on Jalen Hurts. Let's say Jalen Hurts versus Ja Morant. What's the difference? Like, why isn't like Ja Morant? I believe he came from private school, right? His high school education. Jalen Hurts came from public school. Now, what is the fundamental difference between the two?
Without even knowing his parents are not in the limelight doing limelight things. And I think sometimes you take on, like if you have an animal, you have a dog, it takes on your personality. If you're aggressive, your dog's aggressive. If you're nice to everybody, more than likely your dog is nice to everybody. His father's rah-rah. His father wants to be in the limelight. So what's his son to say, you know what? And he looks up to his father. He loves his father more than anything. It's been said. Like if his father's not modeling the right behaviors, and I'm not saying he is or isn't, but I could see similarities in their personality based on the Shannon Sharp situation, based on watching the games, how the father is always looking for, attention. And then when you see Ja Morant in the video and stuff like that, I could make comparisons, based on that. When you think about Jalen Hurts, I've never seen his father in the media before. I never heard anything bad about his father. I never heard his father argue with people in the media or anything like that. I hear that, all Jalen Hurts wants to do is work out, train, or whatever. You don't see him in the videos with all these other. He even had a girlfriend, and he's one of the few celebrities where you don't even know what his girlfriend looked like. He's not someone who wants to be in that limelight or whatever. So I think his platform is used a little bit more differently versus Ja Morant's platform. I also think it comes from he also came from a situation, Jalen Hurts, where he was always a superstar. He was recruited by Alabama. He was recruited from whatever. Ja Morant is also coming from a place where I got to prove myself. I was recruited by Murray State, not too many colleges. I got found by my coach by playing in a YMCA gym type of thing. So I think he's had this thing on his what you call it.
I mean, I don't necessarily agree with that. I see your point in that. I don't necessarily agree in that because at the end of the thing about Jalen Hurts too, Jalen Hurts had a chip on his shoulder as well.
Mm-hmm.
I get what you're saying in terms of Ja Morant because his makeup, he came from a mid-level, a mid-major, was a Kent State, Murray State.
Yeah, he got
so he always had something to prove. But I think Jalen Hurts had the same thing in terms of him having a chip on his shoulder. For example, was the starting quarterback at Alabama, lost his job, went to another university, I think it was Oklahoma, wanted to prove himself, got to the league, and they were kind of looking at him as a decorated backup. I think he had a chip on his shoulder as well.
I think the chip is different though.
That's what I'm about to say. I think the chip is different.
5-star athlete. It's like me. I was in high school. I was what you call second team All City, and only a Division III high school, recruited me for football. Versus one of my boys who was like the superstar in Buffalo. This dude got recruited from like 21 colleges in like 1 month. West Virginia, Virginia Union, freaking University of Virginia, like all types of stuff. His chip on the shoulder would be totally different. My chip on the shoulder is like, damn, I can't get no D1 offers. I can't even get a D2 offer. This dude is like, yeah, I made it,
But that's what brings me back to my question, because see, here's the thing. That's why I put you in the chair of a GM. And this is a good discussion. We'll move on from it. But that's what I want to know, because again, I guess my other question to you is this: I agree with you with the father thing. I mean, we could see his father, how he acted. I would prefer his father to probably be more of a father to his son than to be up in the front row, dancing, talking loud and all that, getting ready to fight Shannon Sharp. However, he's a grown man. He can do whatever he wants to do. But I asked you that question because what I'm trying to get at is this. I do think that somebody like Udonis Haslem or Oakley would have been good for Ja Morant and his behavior, because at the end of the day, you got a talented young man, and you can clearly see that the father is not where we want him to be as far as, him being able to talk to his son. And I'm not saying, maybe that's not the right choice of words. He does talk to his son, but have more of a common influence on his son. I'm asking you that as a GM because I think a lot of GMs, and I want the audience to know, is like, you got a young talent. You got a young guy here who has a lot of talent, but he's obviously not mature. And how do you combat that? Because the talent is the upside. The talent is the upside. And it leads me to the next topic. We're going to talk about Durant, because I feel the same way about Durant. His is a little bit different, but how do you combat the talent? How do you nurture this talent? Is the Grizzlies, are they responsible for some of Ja Morant's behavior? That's why I asked about Udonis. That's why I asked about Oakley, because again, you want to draft this guy because he has such a upside. But as an organization, as a GM, that's why I put you back in the chair of a GM. How do you nurture this young talent?
I think that the Grizzlies did the right thing with the suspension, but I think the NBA suspended him first. I can't remember who suspended
But
him.
I'm saying prior to that.
No.
Right. I'm saying prior to that. You're right.
No, I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I think that they are responsible because you have an office culture, you have an organizational culture, you have a whatever culture, and you need buy-in from the top in order to establish the type of culture that you want. If you can't get your best player in line and you can't get your best player setting the example, everyone else is going to make a mockery of the place. Or there's going to be dissension like, yo, how come you holding me accountable and you're not holding him accountable? Especially when you have grown men who are all making millions. And some of them might even say, hey, I don't think Ja Morant is that much better than me. Because as a pro and as a competitor, you probably look at the next person like, yo, I could do what he could do. I'm pretty sure Bane's like, yo, if he leaves, I could carry the team, you know?
Right.
But I think that they need to make sure that they hold Ja Morant accountable. They need to make sure that the teammates are holding him accountable. Because sometimes management can't do everything. And you're the one playing on the court with him. You're the one who's in the locker room with him. You're the one who he comes and have conversations with. And that's where someone needs to grab him up, like what's his name, the center. He said, there's some people on the team that, are out late, whatever it is that he said.
Steven Adams.
Yeah,
right.
I don't think he directly said Ja Morant's name, but I think at that point in time, you were veteran in this league. You already paid. If you get kicked off this team, you'll get picked up by someone. Steven Adams needs to say Ja Morant needs to get his butt in order. Like Charles Barkley would have said it. Oakley would have said it. Patrick Ewing would have said it. Jordan would have said it. Rodman would have said it. Artest would have said it. I think that it needs to come from the coaches too. The coaches is the first person. After that, you need to have your players. Like, yo, fam, what you doing ain't good. You ruining our season. We the second team in the West.
Well, that's and
the championship.
And that's why I put that topic on there, because I do feel like the players do need to take that role. And what I mean by that is, it's hard for young players. Everybody telling you you're great. You're doing phenomenal things. You obviously don't have the parental support that you need. And it's like, but this guy is such a great talent. And it's like, from a team perspective, what can you do? Because it's like, you got a coach telling him, hey, man, you need to do this, do that. But this coach is making $500,000 a year. $500,000 a year. And it's like, who else can we get to help us with this young man? And I'm asking that question because I thought when Haslam, again, like I told you, when Haslam said this on the Pivot podcast, I was like, you know what? I kind of miss guys like that. And it made me think about Oakley. Like, I think guys like that would be perfect for Ja Morant.
Yeah.
I'm not even talking about, like, I hate the situation that happened with him. And I'm just trying to say from the beginning, what can we do to prevent that from happening? So when I saw that comment from Udonis, I thought about him. I thought about Oak. I thought about guys like that who established that culture around the locker room. And I just feel like teams, when you have young players, and players are getting young, they're coming in at 19, 20, 18, 21 years old and all that. So it's kind of like, how can you combat that behavior? You know what I'm saying? So I just thought it was a good interview. Go check it out on the Pivot. But I just thought, UD would probably be a good person for him. If we had one his age, you know what I'm saying?
I agree.
But that leads me to the next one, like Charles Barkley. Here we go again, Kevin Durant. Charles Barkley, in an interview with Kevin Durant, says he's very sensitive, great player. He's a part of the generation who thinks that he can't be criticized. And hear this part, because this is what I said about, this is what got me off of Durant's train from the beginning. Barkley says he never looked in the mirror and says, man, is that a fair criticism? And then Durant responds by saying, this ain't getting tiring, Chuck. I'll never respect the words that come out your mouth, fam. Just deal with it. But that statement right there where he says, he never looked in the mirror and says, man, Is that a fair criticism? That's what I felt like from Oklahoma City. That's why I don't feel like your man who's going to win is in Phoenix, because at the end of the day, Durant has never. Think about it like this. Think about Michael Jordan. I'm going to point to Michael Jordan. I'm going to point to Akeem Olajuwon. And I think this happens pretty much with all great players at some point in their career.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes down to you not winning, and you're supposedly the alpha dog on your team, whether it be by points, whether it be by people just look at you for maturity, leadership, when you start to have the same result of not winning, it is natural. I think it's natural for somebody, or for me, the great players that end up winning, it is natural for them to look in the mirror and say, you know what? After not winning for a long time, or something continues to happen, maybe it's something I'm doing. And for me, that's why Durant bailed out of Oklahoma City. Because to me, they had success with that team. They went to the finals and they met a prime Miami Heat team. I mean, I wasn't expecting them to win, but I wanted them to get the experience. But the thing that bothers me about Durant, and this is why I say I don't ever see him winning a championship on the team in the role that he assumes, unless it's a Golden State, is because Durant never takes accountability for his team not winning. I haven't seen it. Now, he could say it. I say with his play, and then the fact that every time somebody criticizes him in the media, he has to respond back. And back in the old days, but hold on, give me a second, Cole, because here's the thing. In the old days is this. For example, if we go to the East Gym back in the day, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you say, hey, man, you know what? Back, man, I don't think you good. I didn't think you was good when you was playing with the team. Blah, blah, this and that. You ain't good. And I come out to the East Gym. Now, I could talk back and forth with you all game, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what's the way I could get you to shut up?
Beat me.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Beat you, right? And then after I beat you, I say, okay, what's up? You know what? You saying I ain't this and that, but I just beat you. And for me, that's what bothers me about him.
Mm-hmm.
The mental part. He is ultra talented, but I think Barkley is spot on with this criticism. Like, he doesn't take criticism. And to me, with somebody who doesn't take criticism, I'm not saying you should let somebody ridicule you or nothing like that, but you can even think it's not true if people say stuff about you in the media. But the fact that he always has to say something back, the fact that he always has to make an excuse, to me, and it's the reason why he bailed on Oklahoma City. It's the reason why he bailed on Golden State. It's the reason why he bailed on Brooklyn. Because he never sits down and says, you know what? I'm the alpha of this team. Maybe we not winning. Maybe I need to do more.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe I need to change something up. The thing about Michael Jordan I enjoy so much about Michael Jordan, and I'm biased because we grew up in the 90s.
Yeah.
But the thing I love about Michael Jordan is this. When you watch the development of his career, and I'm talking about from the Chicago Bulls, from the first time he came in the league till he retired. Well, I'm not going to even say he retired. I'm going to say when he left the Chicago Bulls, because the Wizards, that stint was, I don't know what that was. But when Michael Jordan was starting to ascend to the top of the NBA as being the next guy, following Magic and Bird, even following Isaiah, Michael Jordan achieved every individual award possible. And when Michael Jordan got to the point where he ran up against a Detroit Piston team who decided to play him differently, who decided to coordinate a specific attack, do not allow him to get in the air. They had the Jordan rules. Michael Jordan didn't make it an excuse. Michael Jordan went to the weight room. Michael Jordan embraced the criticism, and he took it upon himself. Now, of course, other players helped out, but even when Michael Jordan came back from baseball, when he lost to the Orlando Magic, and everybody, we all gave him an excuse, man. He ain't played a full season of basketball, but he took it upon himself to get in super shape. Even that summer, I'm talking about that 95 season, they decided to shoot the movie Space Jam. He told them the only way I'm shooting that movie is if y'all build me a gym on the set. He trained while he was doing the movie. Now, here's the thing. Michael Jordan had 3 championships at that time. He could have said, you know what? I've been the best. I'm good. But he took it upon himself. He didn't make excuses. He didn't come back and say, he didn't battle with the Charles Barkley in the media and say, man, I never respect what you said. He never said, oh, man, y'all give me a break. I was playing baseball. He said, you know what? It's time for me to go to work. And he accepted the criticism. And by accepting the criticism, I'm not saying you get in the media and say that you're right, but he didn't respond. He just went and worked out. And then he comes back and wins 3 more championships back to back. And so maybe I'm biased when I look at Durant and these superstars. Not everybody's like that, because I like Giannis. Giannis felt like he needed to get better to be a champion, and he was right, and he did. But that's what I say about Durant, and I think Barkley is spot on with this. And it's like, I don't criticize Durant because I don't like him. It's just the fact of the matter is like, it's always an excuse. It's always something that you got to respond back when somebody criticizes you. And if you don't believe it, why respond? And if you're offended by it, then shut me up. Shut me up. Like, even now, the Brooklyn experiment didn't work. You want to show that Brooklyn made a mistake? You want to show that we made a mistake talking about you? You want to show that Barkley made a mistake? Go win a championship in Phoenix. Stop going back and forth in the media when somebody says something you don't like. You want to shut everybody up? Go win. That's what bothers me. And I think Barkley is spot on. I'm not going to speak at the whole generation, but he does not want to take criticism. And to a certain extent, when you're having the same result, you got to be able to look in the mirror and say, you know what, that criticism is fair.
That is a fair criticism.
And it's just like, man, I don't get it, So I don't know, man. I don't know. Now let's get to this Lamar Jackson thing. I cannot for the life of me. I know we talked about it, but I put this back on the show because I'm having trouble. I'm having trouble. And we could debate this, but I think we're on the same side. I don't understand. I don't know if I've ever asked you this, but we both agree that Lamar Jackson is one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
By far.
Why do you think he's not? Like, I don't understand this. I'm confused by this. I'm confused about this. The other day, he tweets that he requested a trade from the Ravens on March the 2nd of this year. Now think about this. This is what bothers me. Within his first 3 years of his career, he won an NFL MVP. The Ravens complained and said, "Okay, yeah, you won the MVP, but you didn't win a playoff game." He comes back the next year, and I believe he wins a playoff game. And I think even the following year, or maybe that same year, I could be wrong, he won a playoff game on the road. Now, he's also won, I think they won a division championship, a conference, is a division championship. I think they won the AFC North while he was there. And Cole, here's the thing. This is what bothers me about the NFL and this whole situation, not just the Ravens, but the NFL. Generally speaking, if we go back, and I'll use Tom Brady. When Tom Brady was starting to win his Super Bowls, I think his first Super Bowl that he won in New England, I think he was still on his rookie contract. And it's customary, you tell me if I'm wrong about this. It's customary when a quarterback, even if they're on a rookie contract, if they win a Super Bowl or get close to winning a Super Bowl, or if they win an NFL MVP, isn't it customary, or isn't it a part of the NFL culture that they redo that contract or add that extension right there?
Yeah, that's typically what happens.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. You tell me if I'm wrong. You the fact check on this podcast. When Mahomes won his first, didn't the Chiefs? Was it? Yeah. Didn't the Chiefs? Was it when he went to the second Super Bowl? The Chiefs gave him an extension before he was done with that first contract. Correct?
I think the part of the reason for that though was because Cousins had set the market, and they knew that every year.
You mean
Kirk
not
Cousins.
Kirk Cousins? Okay,
He
yeah,
set the
okay,
salary market because he got the first guaranteed over $100 million contract.
right.
Mm-hmm. So they wanted to make sure.
But didn't the Chiefs do the same thing for Mahomes before he got out of that rookie contract? Didn't they extend him?
No, they extended him, but it was strategic because they knew, one, the salary cap in the NFL were going to be going up the next couple of years. Like this year is going up again because of new television contracts. They wanted to make sure that they locked him in because now once you win the championship, you have more leverage.
Right.
So why not pay him now before, because Cousins has got $100 million. We could give, what's his name, making the highest paid. But in a couple of years, that's why you saw every quarterback that came after him either got the same or a little bit more.
But again, let's go back to it. I mean, why is the Ravens? I mean, you said it before. Why is the Ravens, along with the NFL, because he's not getting any deals? I mean, we talked about him not having an agent. I guess that could be one of the reasons. But why are they playing so hard with him right now? It just seems like this doesn't make sense to me.
I think that they're colluding together. But I think they said someone, I don't know if it was NFL Today, one of them shows, they think that they're trying to bring down the value of that position because too many players get in it, and it's one of those positions that's taking up the majority of the salary of the team.
But Cole, I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing. Here's what's confusing.
I'm mad about it. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, this is what confuses me about the NFL. Okay, you want to do that? That's fine. I actually agree with that to a certain extent. But here's the problem I have. You want to do that, but at the same time, you tell us you make the defense, if the defense hits the quarterback, they get thrown out of the game, they get a fine. You make the game about offense. Defensive players can't hit receivers when they come across the middle. Everything favors in the NFL, much like the NBA, has gotten behind this. We want to sell more tickets. Do you remember the game when I think the Rams and who was it? The Rams and somebody a couple of years ago, they had that high scoring Monday Night Football game. It was like 51-49, and the league was going crazy after that. For me, Tom Brady, them protecting Tom Brady so long, and what I mean by that is you couldn't hit Tom Brady, which extended his career. Why protect the quarterbacks and then turn around and say, oh, well, this position is why protect offensive players, but then turn around and say, okay, we think this position is making too much money. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense. And then as an NFL, and I hate to use this example. I hate to use this example because it's another African-American quarterback. But the Browns gave Deshaun Watson that contract. And Deshaun Watson, I think he's a great talent. And if he can hang on, I think he'll be up there possibly as a Hall of Fame quarterback. I know I'm stepping out on a limb to say that, but how can you be okay with giving Deshaun Watson that contract, but you don't reward Lamar Jackson? I mean, it seems like to me, even with the negotiation of Lamar Jackson, it's like they're like $100 million off the Ravens.
And I understand Lamar wanting at least, at minimum, what Deshaun Watson got. 200 something guaranteed.
Exactly.
Why can't I have that guaranteed?
Especially if I've done more.
Mm-hmm. And you haven't gotten in trouble. You don't have that bad reputation and so
exactly. So, but why would the league, now you say that the league is colluding. You got some validity to that statement. But why would they collude against Lamar? Is because he's going to push the market?
I think it's one, because he's going to push the market. And two, they don't want the players getting that much power. Because once Lamar do it, now you're going to have a whole bunch of players, oh, I'll sit out. I'll take that second franchise. They don't want to dictate it like how they do in the NBA. The NFL is closely watching it, like, yo, these NBA players got too much power. Durant says he wants to be traded, he gets traded.
Which
Kyrie,
I hate to say it, as good of a job as Adam Silver does, I think he has given him too much power.
mm-hmm.
I do think that. But I think the opposite of the NFL. You know, I think the NFL, they don't give guaranteed contracts.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I just have a problem with, okay, we don't want Lamar to push this narrative, but you let Brady do it. Not necessarily from a contract situation, but you let Brady do it for years. You let him do it for years. You let him cheat. You let him deflate balls. I mean, you've let him, you know, situations in the media where you've covered up, you let him do it for years. And now it's time for Lamar, who's put in time, who's put in work. It's time for him to cash in.
Yep.
And now it's like, we're going to play hardball. I just think it's so unfair, and I just think it's not a good look for the NFL. I just don't understand it. I don't understand it. I think that's a simple contract thing.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is Kirk Cousins gets money. He gets a big contract, and he's an average quarterback. That's a hard negotiation for me. But Lamar Jackson, that's easy. You give him what he wants.
I agree.
I mean, I don't know. It's just weird.
I think he's deserved it. I think he earned it.
It's just weird to me. Where do you think he ends up?
I hope he ends up with the Colts. I actually like the Colts for him.
I do
Indoor. I think his speed will be even more enhanced playing on turf most of the time.
I like the fact that young running back, I think they should be a running offense like Baltimore.
Yep.
I like that. I don't know. It's just weird to me. I know we talked about it, but it's starting to bother me the more it lingers. It's crazy. It's just crazy to me. All right, let's get to the next subject. Got a few more, then we're going to wrap it up. All right, let's get to this question. I want to ask you this. And I'm asking you to put on your, I don't want to say GM hat, as a customer, not even a customer, as a fan. Let me ask you this. The Rock reveals that the XFL is in jeopardy of returning in 2024 after unexpected low ratings. Why do you think the XFL has low ratings right now? I mean, they're on the biggest network. They're on ESPN, ABC. They've got all kind of special effects. They've got camera access on the field, microphones. Why hasn't this league, or any league really outside of the NFL in particular, but let's talk about the XFL specifically, why would they be struggling right now? Like, I want you to think about it like this. Put yourself in a situation where Saturday afternoon, you don't have nothing to do. Why wouldn't you be watching XFL football?
It's not the NFL. That's the only thing I can say. It's like trying to, what's a good comparison? It's like, for me, it took me a while to even get into UFC because it wasn't boxing.
True.
I think you become so is it desensitized or not desensitized or whatever?
Yeah, well, you get so accustomed to watching.
Yeah, you get so accustomed to something. Yeah, and I just felt like you just get so accustomed to watching real pros, like the NFL, the best of the best. So, like, I'm not gonna go to a NBA. Like, I'll watch an NBA D-League game, but it ain't gonna be like, if you put it on TV, I'm not gonna sit there and be like, oh, I gotta see the D-League. No, you say that about the NBA. You say that even about the NCAA tournament. If you gave me an option of watching the D-League Select or whatever, that's the one that takes all the top high school players or high school Americans that don't want to go to college, I'm still gonna watch the NCAA tournament over that. You know what I mean? Like, it's.
So is the XFL, is it because the NFL is so good at the product, or is there anything the XFL can do?
I don't think there's anything. I'd rather watch college football. I'd rather watch Deion's summer. You know what I mean? I just think it's it's hard to start a new league and expect it to be great. I think even the MLS, the Major League Soccer in America, that still take a while for it to start getting off the ground, because I still think people would prefer to watch FIBA and watch all the other stuff like that. Now it's starting to get a little bit more, people starting to watch it a little bit more.
And I think too, to your point, I don't mean to cut you off. I think the MLS has decided. I mean, but the XFL is doing the same thing. It's like they've kind of went.
You want another example? How about this example? You look at golf. When Tiger's not there, you don't get that many people watching. But when Tiger's there, you're like, yo, I gotta tune into golf.
But but some people still watch golf outside.
No, the people still watch it, but you can't tell me that it makes way more money when Tiger's there.
So what I'm hearing from you is that, because again, some people, with the devil's advocate to that is with this. Okay. The XFL is not playing when the NFL is playing. They definitely would get blown out of the water then. But now that they're playing, they pretty much dictated their own season right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes sense. There's nothing on, in terms of the NBA playoffs hadn't started yet. Saturday afternoon, that's a good slot to take.
It's like preseason. It's like It's like thinking about, would you pay all that money to go to an NBA preseason game, or would you rather go to the regular season game? And I feel like when you seriously, you think about preseason any sport, like you don't see a sold out stadium for a Houston Texan game or a Giant game or a Jet game for a preseason game. No, and that's what like XFL is. It's like saying, even when you go to preseason, you go to the third preseason game or the second because that's when the starters are going to play the first half.
Right.
And after that, so and I think that's kind of like XFL. It's like, who wants to go see journeymen, people that came from the Canadian Football League that you never heard of before? Who wants to see that?
I mean, I hate to admit you.
Arena football hasn't even made it.
I thought you was gonna give me a little bit more of a positive perspective, but you're right though. I mean, it's kind of like, and I had that in the back of my mind. I'm like, golly, man, I love The Rock. I love what he's trying to do. I like the fact that he's trying to make a league where guys have another choice. But it's like, man, it is. It's not the NFL. It's not the NFL, and it's kind of unfair, but it's life. I compare everything to the NFL when I think about football. I mean, I'm looking at the team names. It's like the Ravens and then the St. Louis Battlehawks. Like, that sounds like a bootleg version of Any Given Sunday. You know what I'm saying? Like, remember in Any Given Sunday, you had the Miami Sharks. And then when they went to go play Dallas, like, I was looking at the turf, and I'm looking at the turf like, who made this turf? You know what I'm saying?
And I think the big issue with it is that you don't really have the names that draw. For example, the prime example is, you think about boxing, you think about the Paul brothers. They are able to get names like Mayweather. They're able to get Nate Robinson. They're able to get people from other sports that you're drawn to because you want to see these names fight. If they could get someone like Denzel Washington, let's just say, just making it up, Denzel Washington or Creed that just played in that just came out in the movie. They got one of them. Imagine if Jake Paul wanted to fight one of them. I guarantee you that place would sell out. I guarantee you pay-per-view and everyone would try to get on that. It's the Creed versus Jake Paul. Real fight. I think and XFL has yet to establish getting the names, and that's what it is.
That's true. That's true. Can't debate that. That's true. All right, let's move into boxing, and then we'll spend a little bit of time on the tournament, then we'll get out of here. All right, let's get into boxing, man. We had a wonderful card this weekend with David Benavidez versus Caleb Plant on Saturday night. David Benavidez comes off with the unanimous decision victory over Caleb Plant, 115 to 113, 116 to 112, and 117 to 111. Great fight, great card. After the fight, the post-fight interview with Jim Gray, in the ring with David Benavidez. And Benavidez says, I would love to fight Canelo Alvarez. I think I deserve my shot, and many people have said, hey, Canelo Alvarez and David Benavidez should be the next thing simply because David Benavidez is the next big thing at 168. And that's the division that Canelo currently is undisputed. And so people are saying that's the division that Canelo should give him a shot. But I want to ask you this, and I want you to kind of give me your viewpoint on this, what's best for boxing. Eddie Hearn comes out, who is Canelo's promoter, and he says after Benavidez made that statement that he would like to fight Canelo for the belt, the WBC belt at 168. And we all know that Canelo has a fight coming up in May. He's going to fight his WBO mandatory, I believe, John Ryder. And then he said after that he wants to avenge the Dimitri Bivol loss. And then some people say, I'm one of these people, I don't think he should avenge that loss. I don't think he had any business fighting Bivol anyway. I thought Bivol would be out of his league, and he did. He outboxed him, he outclassed him, plus he was bigger. But Canelo's promoter, Eddie Hearn, comes out and says that, David Benavidez is an easier fight for Canelo than Bivol. And I thought that was interesting. And I'm saying to myself, if you in Canelo's corner, what is the easiest fight? Is it David Benavidez or Dimitri Bivol? What do you think? Because this is a big decision, because here's the thing. Canelo Alvarez, what he has left in the tank, I think he's 50-something into. He lost to Mayweather and he lost to Bivol. Both were supreme boxers, and I think that's the only way you're going to beat Canelo Alvarez. You have to be a supreme boxer. You have to work the jab, and you have to outclass him. You're not going to knock him out. You're not going to hit him with power punches. But David Benavidez has been successful as a come-forward fighter with a lot of power. Some people say he has a chance to beat Canelo because he's the younger man. He's a little bit younger than Canelo. But, again, if you were in Canelo's corner, would you take the Bivol rematch or would you fight Benavidez? What favors you if you're in Canelo's corner?
If he loses to Benavidez, then he's washed. Like, they're gonna say you lost to the last two people, you fought. Like, you're not a big name like you used to be. Like, you're still a name, but you start to become that Pacquiao name, that one that just fights people and just for the money, but you start losing. You fight Bivol again, you lose to him again, that raises the stakes for Bivol, like you that dude now. But I'd rather see him fight Bivol again. I think that it's most recent in his head. I think you already trained for him previously. You're probably more prepared to fight Bivol than Benavidez because at least you know what you got into the ring the first time. You have data to go off of to say, okay, this is why I need to improve in the last fight. And I think he'll have a better chance with Bivol right now than Benavidez.
I can understand that. That logic makes sense. I do think Benavidez is the easiest fighter. And the reason why I say that is because of this. And I get your logic. You fought this man before. You should be better. But however, I say Bivol is the harder fight because at the end of the day, first of all, number one, you got to go up. You went up to fight him at 175. And he's a legit 175. Number two, he's more dangerous because same way I feel about Mayweather, the same way I feel about Bivol. If Canelo fights Mayweather again, when Mayweather was still younger, same result. Same result. Because at the end of the day, how do you beat somebody who outboxes you? How do you turn around? And one of the good examples for that for me was, when I was telling people this, is that when Devin Haney went over to Australia and he beat George Kambosos, he went back. I told everybody it's going to be the same conclusion. People are like, well, Kambosos has been in the ring with him. I said, yeah, but the thing about being outboxed is this. If somebody counters you, if somebody has better footwork than you, if somebody constantly puts you in a situation to where you can't be your best, How do you game plan for that?
Yeah, that is true.
You know, how do you game plan for that? I think what Bivol did to him is what Canelo did to him. He outboxed him. And it doesn't help that Bivol is a bigger man anyway. And so I think Bivol is a harder fight because Bivol, you're not going to get punches off on him, just like he didn't get punches off on Floyd. Benavidez is a come forward fighter. So he'll be there for you to punch him. Even when he fought Caleb Plant, and anybody that watches Benavidez, his strategy is this. He starts off slow. He just did it this past Saturday. He starts off slow, and then he eventually knocks his opponents out in the later rounds because he's a come forward fighter that has a great chin. His defense is okay, but he'll be there for Canelo to hit him. And so I think Canelo, Plant boxed well the first 5 rounds against Benavidez this past weekend, but he ran out of gas. I think Canelo could actually withstand Benavidez. And Benavidez has never been on the same level as a Canelo fighter. I think Benavidez is the easiest fighter because I think Bivol, much like Mayweather, they're just dangerous fighters because they don't get hit. And so I actually think his promoter, Eddie Hearn, got it right. I think Benavidez is the easier fighter. Now, people can turn around and say, like you said, well, he's been in there with Bivol. Well, I've already kind of given you my reason against that. Well, Benavidez is the younger fighter. That's some validity. But at the end of the day, Canelo Alvarez, first of all, he's got a better chin than anybody that Benavidez has fought. And again, Benavidez will be there to get hit, which scores points. You know? But if I'm Benavidez, knowing what I know about Canelo, and I don't know why these guys at 168 don't do this, Charlo, Boo Boo Andre, stop waiting for Canelo.
Yeah.
Like, fight everybody else. Fight his opponents and then call them out. You know, and I think Benavidez is going to do that. Don't wait for Canelo. You sitting around, that's what's destroying Charlo now. He sat around and waited for a long time, and now it's like, you know, and Canelo might not fight you. He's looking for paydays now. You know? All right, let's go to one more boxing topic. I really want to get your opinion on this. Tank Davis was recently in news again. Of course, we talked about him and Ryan Garcia with the hydration clause and the stipulations for the fight. We debated that. But how do you feel about this quote? This just happened the last couple of weeks. And Tank adds this: I've got more skills than you. Tank fires back at Mike Tyson for the following quote. Tyson said the following thing. Tyson was recently asked if Tank was worthy of being compared to him, and the 56-year-old responded by claiming the only reason they should be linked together, meaning him and Tank, is that they were both known for being in trouble with the police. He said, I don't know, maybe just get in trouble with the law, but other than that, no, we ain't got nothing in common. And Tank comes back and fires back and is like, dude, I got more skills than you. Chill out. How you feel about that comment, man? And is it true? I mean, do you think Tyson kind of played him? How do you feel about that?
I think Tyson, yeah. Man, know what it is with Tyson? Tyson in the beginning of his career, I think, is all power. I think not just the power. I also think it's fear factor. People were scared of him. I thought the way that he did it, the fashion he did things, made him such a bigger household name and made him, you know, so much more as a boxer, even though I think Tank may be a little bit more right. He may be a little bit more skilled, because I did feel like whenever Tyson had to fight more than a couple of rounds, more than 5, 6, 7 rounds, you start to see him exposed, you know? So I think they're both funny. I think they're both funny. I actually respect Tyson, be like, man, go ahead with all that. And I can see him saying it. That's the crazy part. And then I can also see Tank being real. Like, from a skill base, he's a little bit more skilled than Tyson. But if you want to look at their work and the people that they beat, I think you could probably say Tyson beat more bigger names. So,
and that's I'm glad you said that, because I think people underrated Mike Tyson's skills because of,
you never got to see him because they were so quick.
Exactly. And I still think he was a skilled boxer. Now, the appeal that Mike Tyson was built upon was him being the most terrifying man on the planet.
I agree.
But I tell people this all the time. I don't think Mike Tyson was the hardest hitting heavyweight of all time. He's one of the hardest hitting heavyweights, but I think it's George Foreman and maybe even Deontay Wilder. You know, as hard. I'm talking about just, or Ernie Shavers, guys that hit hard, you know, devastating punching power. I don't have a problem with these comments. I don't think it's comparable right now because, like you, my biggest complaint about Tank is that I haven't seen him yet against the best.
Yeah.
I've seen Tyson against the best. And sometimes Tyson has lost when he's fought the best. But at least Tyson fought the best.
Yes.
The jury is still out on for Tank for me in terms of that. Now, I can understand Tank. I kind of like Tank firing back because it's like, dude,
you got to
right,
show.
I'm supposed to, right? I'm supposed to. No disrespect to Mike, but it's like, dude, it's my time now. You know what I'm saying? And I even said on this podcast, I think they're similar in terms of when I think about Tank and how he boxes. He's a slow starter. Mike was a slow starter sometimes, even though sometimes Mike. No, I take that back. Mike wasn't a slow starter. Mike was the opposite. He would get you out of there in 3. So let me take that statement back. But I think they're similar in the sense that both have devastating power.
Yeah.
I think now I'm stepping out on a limb with this. I think you beat Mike Tyson 2 ways, which I think you can do this with Tank. I have been yet to see it because he hadn't fought this caliber of boxer yet. But I think you can beat Mike Tyson for number 1, not being scared, not being intimidated, and number 2 with a jab. Yeah. I think you beat Mike Tyson. And I feel the same way about Tank. I haven't seen it yet. That's why I say I think only Shakur and Devin can do that. I don't think nobody else can, but I think you beat him the same way. I think you cannot be intimidated. Well, let me say this. You cannot be intimidated. I'm going to say 3 things. You cannot be intimidated. You don't get hit. And you work the jab. I think that's how Evander Holyfield beat Tyson. I know that's how Lennox Lewis beat Tyson.
Yep.
You know, Lennox Lewis had a hell of a jab and he didn't get hit. I think that's how you beat Tank. I think if anybody beats Tank, I think it's only 1 or 2 people. It's either Devin Haney or Shakur Stevenson. And I say Shakur because I say Devin too, because Devin has a beautiful jab and he knows how to work his jab. But Shakur, to me, because he doesn't get hit and he works that jab, I think that's how you beat Tank. You can't. I don't think you can knock Tank out. I don't think nobody has the power.
I just want to see these fights. I think they need to hurry up. I think for me, I think Tank's next 3 fights have to be against the next 3 best.
I think so too, because his age, age, you know, like Devin.
It's just that it's about time. You can't be fighting no non-names. You have to fight the next 3 best.
Right. And when do we get to see him in a ring with somebody that either has an equal chance of beating him? You know, he's not an overwhelming favorite.
Yep.
So, all right, let's get to the last thing, man. The Final Four is set. I mean, we got us incredible Final Four. 3 of these teams will make their men's Final Four debuts. Florida Atlantic, San Diego State, University of Miami. And then, of course, the team that we all know has been there several times, UConn. But what a historic Final Four. What a historic tournament. I love the tournament.
Yep.
This year personifies why I love it so much that in any given day, any team can win. I love that culture. I love the parity of college basketball right now. I love the fact that all the good kids are not, or all the talented kids are not going to the Blue Bloods. Some are. They are spreading out. The talent is spreading out. And that's why this tournament, to me, is so much more popular than college football. And it shows the beauty of college basketball. College football, most of the kids are still going, in my opinion, to the powerhouse conference, SEC, the powerhouse schools. But when you look at college basketball, and not just the players, but the coaches, you even got good coaches branching off from the blue blood schools and taking smaller schools, taking them to higher places. So
Yep.
shout out to the NCAA. Who you got, man, and why? Who wins this whole thing? This is hard for me.
So the two players that I've been loving, and one of them is out, and he's from Harlem, by the way. Noel from Kansas State, man, that joint hurt because he was playing against the other kid that I started to love, Jaden Daniels or is it Jalen or Jahan Daniels or whatever? Those two players have became my two favorite. Jahan or Mr. I'm just calling him Davis. Davis reminds me of a mix of Lance Stevenson and something, just the way he plays Steven Jackson type of player. And I feel like Noel, he just he could play in the NBA. I don't care what anyone says.
As small as he is, you think he can?
I think. Do you look at Jameer Nelson? I was thinking of Jameer Nelson. I was thinking of even Chris Paul, like the way he facilitates. Like I haven't seen a college point guard pass the way this kid passes. His instincts for the game, and he has that New York City grit and heart. So I know he'll bring it. That rate for Austin to him or whatever. But anyway, back to my story. I think UConn's gonna take it. I think UConn's the hottest team. However, I would love to see FAU win.
Me too.
I love that team.
Pulling for FAU.
And I think the reason why
I don't think they're gonna win.
Huh?
I'm pulling for them, but I just don't think they're gonna win. I just think UConn is the bigger team.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah,
but I think guard play dominates, and they got 4 guards on the court at all times. All times.
Right.
So, but I do think UConn takes it all. So
right. Yeah, it's going down here in Houston, man. It's looking good.
Yeah, man.
We're able to get no spot nowhere. Everything is booked up, but we're gonna keep pushing, man. We definitely gonna keep pushing. Well, that's it, brother, man. We had a pretty good show, man.
Sir, who you got? So you got UConn winning.
I think I'm pulling for Florida Atlantic. I love their guards.
Yeah, me too, man.
I just think UConn has good guard play, and they have such big, strong, athletic guys down low.
Most importantly, the coach.
The coach. And I think
one in Buffalo, one in everywhere.
Right. And I think, just like you said, I think they've peaked at the right time. It's just, to me, when I see them, they're the more complete team, and they're clicking on all cylinders, man. And I just think they can beat you. I think the other teams, the guards, have to play great, and they have played great to get to this point. I just think UConn doesn't have to play great at a specific position to still beat you. I think UConn is the more well-rounded team.
I'm gonna say this, and you might think I'm crazy. And remember this day, over the next 6 years, UConn will win at least 2 more championships. They'll win 2 championships in the next 6 years.
That's not a bad take.
I think Hurley, wherever he's gone, he's recruited well. He creates teams that play super hard. He had Buffalo going, I think, to the Sweet 16 one year. And then after he left Buffalo, he went to
That's right, because that was the Buffalo, when Buffalo came out of nowhere and the team started to be real good.
Yep.
He was there. You were exactly right. Yep. Yeah. And then he came out of nowhere, and they were just like, right. I forgot he was the coach.
And then he went somewhere. What was the next school? Was it?
I can't remember. He fell off the radar for a little while, and then he came back.
He took that second team to the tournament too.
That's right.
He was at last, and I was just like, yo,
can't remember
certain coaches. I'm just like, and then I felt like UConn. The reason why he's gonna do so great because it's a good recruiting hotbed. People do like to go to UConn, and it's one of the last schools of the Big East. So
right.
I could see, he's going to build some dynasties over there, man.
That's not a bad take, because you know what? I'm going to tell you something. I do think they'll win. And what I'm seeing from them, and this kind of adds a little bit to what you're saying, these 2 championships in the next 6 years, they give me the feel of those Villanova teams, Bronson and Bronson, Hart, the kid that's in Brooklyn now that came from, they give me that appeal.
Yeah.
A very well-rounded, tough, smart, but athletic basketball team,
Yeah.
to which they have weaknesses, but they hide the weaknesses very well. And they're well coached. And I
that's what I love about them.
right. And I don't see them. One thing that they do, one thing that I notice about his teams, now that I think about the Buffalo teams, they don't beat themselves.
They don't.
And so you're going to have to go out there and beat them. And you're going to have to, and what do? They shoot it well. They post well. They don't turn the ball over.
Yeah.
What do? They are solid defensively. They're sound, but they're athletic.
Yep.
You know? The big kid he's big and strong. I think it's an African kid, right? Down low. And I mean, they're guards. What's the kid's name? I see
Cam, isn't it Cam?
the light-skinned kid. Yeah. I mean,
you know what's so crazy is that, like you said, I feel like I get those Jay Wright vibes.
right. Exactly.
I get those what you call vibes, that Mike Krzyzewski, those teams that create that culture. I get that Tarkanian vibe where he has a culture where he brings great players together. And
then that Villanova team, those years with Bronson and them.
Yeah.
I can remember watching them saying this team, and there were teams that would go on runs with them in the tournament. I can remember watching that team saying two things. Number one, I can't pinpoint their weakness. And number two, they never get rattled.
Yep.
It's like they always, I remember watching Bronson and it was like team make a run, then Bronson come up with a big play, team make another run. And then it just kind of like, I remember those teams, Bronson and them, every time a team made a run, they found a way to stop the run. Yep. They would always find a way to bring the momentum back to them in the game.
And he had a team of he had another team before that with DiVincenzo.
Yeah.
And then the two other guards.
Right.
It was one that went to the NBA and then one that went overseas.
Right.
They always had that 3-guard alignment type of thing.
3-guard alignment. They were solid.
Yep.
Their big kids could shoot. Their big kids could post up.
Yep. The big kid actually played for Golden State, one of them last year.
Right.
Pascal. I think it was Pascal or something.
Pascal, yeah. I think he was the kid that hit that 3 to win 1 year. Yeah. So I get that vibe from UConn. I get that vibe. Could be wrong, but I'm just telling you what I feel and what I see.
I feel like they're gonna win. And like you, I want FAU to win, man.
Yeah.
I want them to win bad. I really love that Davis kid, man. I just love his game. I'm like, yo, he a Nick type of baller with the way
I like all of them, man. I like Miami. I like when Miami showed me something what they did to Houston and Texas, man. I like that.
And I love their coach. Their coach has a Hurley vibe.
Yep.
What's his
Steve
name?
Fisher?
No. That's not Miami. The white dude with the white hair.
The coach from Miami?
Yeah, it begins with an L, right?
Can't think his name. I can see him, yeah. Because he had me laughing after they beat U of H. He was dancing in the locker room. I'm like, look at this.
Yeah, but I always loved him, man. What's his name? It begins with an L, I feel like.
I can't think of his name.
Yeah, but I love that coach. Him, UConn. I just feel like all the teams are likable, man.
Yeah.
They're all likable. You want all of them to do well, but I'm rooting for FAU or UConn.
Yeah. We'll see, brother. All right, man. Well, it's been real. Another solid show, man. Appreciate you. Stick with us, ladies and gentlemen. We still got some more guests coming. Be patient with us. We're dealing with professional people. It's hard to keep their schedules, but we're going to keep rocking and rolling. But again, Cole, has been real.
Yes, sir.
From Mo City to Houston to New York. Back through the 4 or 5 boroughs, all the way through from Brooklyn to Manhattan to the Bronx, Staten Island, Harlem, baby, Uptown Manhattan, back on down to Houston. Catch us up next week where we'll do it again. Thank y'all for tuning in with Debate Podcast. Stream this on Spotify, Apple, Google, or wherever you listen to your podcast to. Follow us on Mo Serious Entertainment on Instagram and Facebook. Subscribe to Mo Serious Entertainment on YouTube. Oh, I forgot to get to it, but we'll get to it next week. We'll talk about your picks for the night, but we'll do it next week. But
Sir.
catch you next week. Shout out to Cole. Shout out to the Burrows. Peace.
Peace.